Should we start off with a prayer just so that, yeah, we'll be able to, just so that we could do a good job. Would anybody like to start, volunteer for that?
I can do that.
Good, thanks.
Our Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this day and for being here and learn more. We're so grateful for education and all the blessings that you give to us. We ask you to please bless us with that spirit that we might learn and learn from one another. And please also let us continue and do our best in our schoolwork. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, thank you. Okay, so we're going to be doing a major focus on that Lone Star case. Thankfully, it was only like, what, 4 pages long, so it wasn't too bad, yeah. Let me pull it up. Okay. So, here, let me test something out really.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. It was doing like echoing, so I was like, I can't concentrate. Okay, so the first part that we're going to be working on today is just some sexual harassment background. So we'll do this for about 10 minutes. And it's asking, so it says, ask your team to help you understand some background on sexual harassment law before you start the case. So that other Harvard, I think the note on the law of sexual harassment. Did you guys catch anything from there, or?
What I caught is, much as we've seen, the United States seems to be the front runner of, because I looked internationally, and Samantha, I don't know what the laws are in your country, but a lot of the laws in international countries didn't start until a lot later. I think I saw some from 1997, 1998, 1984 with Australia, 2005 for China, and Russia doesn't even have any real sexual harassment law on the books. They have really nothing to, help those people that way. And it's mind-blowing that we live in a day and age. Well, really, these laws are really relatively new. 1964 was the Civil Rights Act, and then things progressed from that, but that's still...
We lost one. Can you hear me, or what happened?
Oh, yeah, now I can hear you. I don't know what happened there.
I'm not sure either. Is she, Renee, affected with the hurricanes that are going on down there?
Oh, guys, can you not hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you.
We lost you for a minute, Renee.
Yeah.
Really, I'm so sorry. My computer is really acting up, and I'm really apologize. Did you hear anything I said?
What I heard is that... Go ahead, sorry. I was just hearing that how crazy it is that there wasn't any laws for a lot of places for a long time. Like you said, you found some stuff from like the 90s when they started actually acting on it and having an active part in lawsuits concerning sexual harassment. That's what I heard.
And ultimately, what I said in the end was that our laws are relatively new. Our laws didn't start till the 60s, which is still fairly new for our country, which is surprising in itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is really crazy that it's been a thing for a long time, and you couldn't do anything about it. And there was no procedures or policies. So yeah, it's it's kind of comforting that now there is a little bit more on that.
It amazes me how like so many things we have now actually we started about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Not only in this aspect, but in so many different aspects.
Okay. So it also says to define what sexual harassment is. So what would you guys? How would you guys define it?
Well, in there, and I didn't realize the two different types as it talked about it, that quid pro quo harassment. You know, it's the harassment involving a proposed exchange of a job benefit for sexual favors. And but then you also have your hostile work environment harassment. It involves behavior that the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment. So it kind of does it in showing two different aspects of it.
And do you know what I had the hardest time? I thought, is as lovely as these assignments and these papers are, can they not just write it in simple form? Because I feel like I'm reading a lawyer documentation and I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I agree.
I struggled. I mean, I picked out and I understand it, but for everyone else, you know, I think a lot so small that there's not a big difference between it.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes I open up the papers and then I see that it's like 20 pages long, and I'm like, maybe there's like a summary out there that I can just see instead. There's so much, like, they even said something like, as he's tapping his mechanical pencil on the table. I'm like, I didn't mean to know that. It's like,
From everything I read about definition of sexual harassment, the one thing that I understood best was the simple definition of unwelcome sexual advances. And I think it sums it up, and the rest I didn't really record it in my brain.
You know, and
go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't think that it really broke it down to specific, because what makes one person uncomfortable maybe doesn't make somebody else uncomfortable.
Which is probably why it's so hard to define as a policy too, because some could be like, oh, just toughen up, that's just the way it is, but it actually can offend people. So it's a hard subject for sure.
Yeah. Have you all taken the quiz up from this reading already? Because there's a quiz question related to what Lori just said.
No, I haven't taken it yet.
Okay. I haven't either. I've just been reading up the the Harvard Law summary of it.
Okay, so based on Martinez's story, Julia Martinez, does her situation constitute sexual harassment?
I would say it does, because it advances and is making her uncomfortable in the work spot.
And also, she's clearly not asking for it, and she's clearly uncomfortable, and he knows it. The boss knows it, because he's like, if you say anything, I'm gonna say you're lying.
Yes, definitely. He says, or she says, right? It makes me squirm. You know, I think, oh my word, if it makes you squirm, then that's run.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think so too. I think it is like sexual advances, obviously unwanted. She doesn't like it at all. And like, there's even one point I think that he like stuck his hand underneath his or her shirt or something like that. So that's just like, I don't know. This should be just a cutoff point right there.
Oh, yeah.
And even when she went into, oh, what's his name, the main guy, to his office.
John DeSoto? Jack.
Yeah.
Jack DeSoto.
When she went into his office, it's like she kind of stepped back or something, maybe unconsciously, but it's because she's already scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it was asking, is it quid pro quo or hostile work environment?
I'm going to say I found it more of the hostile work environment instead of the other, because he's not saying, you know, I'm going to fire you if you don't do this with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's not enough information really to say whether or not it was I can't say it right, quid pro quo, but I don't know. Maybe there was some mention of like in the background that we didn't see, but as far as I can see, it was a hostile work environment, and he was just saying like if she told he would just deny it.
Mm-hmm. She did mention, and she said when she was like, no, you can't tell the other people because he's gonna fire me for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it doesn't say that he said that, but if she thinks that's because he might imply it some way or another.
Yeah. Maybe it's a mixture of both then. So do you think that how did you say it? De Sote? I kept on saying like De Coste in my head when I was reading it. De Soto? De Sote?
The cost, no, yeah, you do better than I do.
So he got accurate advice do you think that he got accurate advice when he called the council's office to go to the EEO office for Lone Star?
I think he did, because I came across where it said that that it is the EEO office that handles that information in the Harvard Law one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think it's the right thing to do because it's hard, but what if someone else is being harassed by this boss and no one knows because they won't denounce, blame him or something.
Mm-hmm. So why might a lawyer representing the company insist on instituting a formal investigatory process?
I think they have to do that investigation to find out if it's only one certain person in the office or more people that are being harassed by him.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah,
ultimately
there could be more to the story.
I think they just need to cover their tracks. Make sure that what he's hearing is what he's hearing. Make sure that she's okay. There's a lot of factors in it, and if they don't cover their tracks, then someone can point fingers and things can get even more messy.
Yeah. So it would be really a good idea to have some kind of investigation. Okay.
Yes.
So part 2, the DeCoste dilemma. Okay, so how would you evaluate Jack DeCoste's option at this point? What do you think he should do? Do you think that he should just keep quiet, or because she didn't want him to say anything, or do you think it would be better to go to the Lone Star EEO office? Yeah.
How is it? EEOO?
EEO.
Oh,
Can't remember what it said for.
Equal opportunity office.
Mm.
But I think he needs to go to the office and get what they specifically have set in place in their rules, and they should have rules of what, based upon the laws of what he can watch for and maybe do to help the company so that they don't get a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. There should be some kind of policies, but just like ground policies that I don't know.
Well, and it says most mid-sized and large companies provide formal internal procedures to handle harassment complaints. Federal law does not require companies to maintain such procedures, but they can help reduce the incidence of harassment and shield companies from liability for certain types of claims. So I think if you are a company, any size really, I think you should have some sort of procedure in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's take a vote of what we think that he should do. If he should just stay quiet or if he should report it. So is there anybody that think that he shouldn't report? All right. So do we all think that he should report then to the office?
Yes.
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 Okay.
It's not the easiest thing to do. What's the wisest thing?
Yeah.
Not only being the wise thing, it sounded like it kind of made him uncomfortable in listening to it, that, it's something that maybe he needs to report so that others can feel free to go forward if this same person or anybody else is making them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. It would just make it worse if he didn't report it because it just like we were saying, it would just cause more problems in the end. Okay, so how would you explain to Julia about your decision about reporting the incident? And yeah. So how would you tell Julia if you were in Dakota's spot?
What I would tell Julia, because she's thinking a lot about her situation and what is better for her. I don't think her plan is the best for her, but that's what she thinks. So I would go to other people. I would be like, hey, Julia, if we don't report this, I mean, even if you get transferred to another department, someone else might be harassed by him. Or this problem might get even worse. Or you might even not solve it yourself. So not have her only think about herself, but what could be happening to other people that they don't know about.
Yeah, I think that would be a good way to explain it. And it would be hard for her to hear because she is so scared and that she would lose her job and her husband's job too. It's not just hers.
Well, but he did say that he didn't give out any names. He said, I just wanted to know what the rules are and what your rights are, and that they're going to have an investigation. So, panic. She's like, I don't even want to think about his reaction, meaning the other guy, what he'll do. But she did say her sister knows, so at least she's told somebody. Hopefully, this will be good to have people behind her to support her.
So we're going to move on to part 3, the sexual harassment policies and procedures. So in this section, we're going to be looking at the different perspectives of the situation, whether it be like the potential victim of the harassment, accused harasser, bystander, and legal counselor. And so we're going to kind of be making up like our own policies and what we think that we would put into place if we were a company. So like what like rules would we have, or I don't know, just like things that we can do to prevent this from happening. So what do you think would have been like a good idea for in this situation, so that there would have been proof that it was happening, or yeah, so what, yeah, I don't know if there's like any rules in general that you would have put into place if you were the person in charge of the company.
Maybe I've watched too many TV shows, but I mean, she said he's very careful. He's very careful about no one seeing. But if she's maybe voice recording with her phone when she goes into the office, and he says one of those threats as, if you say something, I'm gonna deny it, then she's gonna have the evidence recorded on her phone.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things you do have to do, as you were talking, Emily, is that we have to set a policy in force for the company, and then all the employees have to be made aware of it. It doesn't state in the case whether the employees had ever had any type of movie or training of what is considered sexual harassment within the workplace. And where they're merging, he may need to see what only does their company have, but the one that they're merging in with have in place, and what training needs to be done. So we would have to start with doing a training session for all employees.
Mm-hmm. And also let them know, be aware of how serious it is, and that it is real, that it does happen. Because I feel like it's one of those things that can be brushed off really easily, but I think people should be, they should let know the employees of how serious it is.
Also, I think like we have the honor code and we have to sign something, you know, I think after, like Lori said, you do this training, then you sign this document, say, I understand what this is saying. I understand that I cannot cross the line, whatever, you know, you want to write, and then have everyone sign it. Then everyone realizes they're on the same page. If they cross the line, then there are severe consequences, and there's documentation saying that you did understand what was being taught, and you didn't follow through.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think it'd also be a really good idea to have a lot of cameras around. Like if there's some kind of like camera inside the offices or wherever, and you can't see where it's pointing at, so you can't like hide from it. I feel like that would be really good if they were going to use that, like in the Lone Star case, to prove that something was going on that wasn't okay. But maybe I'm trying to think of what else you could do, or policies you can put into place that, I don't know, could help the people that are being harassed.
You know, I think one thing is sorry, Lori, a lot of women, I don't know, I've never had to deal with this, but I would think that women or whoever would be having this harassment would feel that they wouldn't be believed. So I think taking the benefit of the doubt to that, letting that person have that benefit that this is actually happening, and then going about it to figure out if it is actually happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
That does make sense. And then I was going to put in there that once you do a policy and have it in place and do the training, with my own workplace, we have to do what they call mandatory briefings every year. And I think a good job should also have that sexual harassment training or a briefing every year to remind people this is, you know, these types of things are not acceptable within the workplace.
Yeah, I think. So question, what do you think could go wrong if they posted a report to the EEO office? Because I feel like that is kind of a risky move, because it is very out there. I mean, it's the right thing to do, of course. But what do you think could come from it that we wouldn't have expected?
I think something risky is that they don't have evidence.
Mhm.
However, because I mean, if they don't have evidence, Julia can get in trouble for saying what she said. However, she didn't say that to anyone in the workplace. She was telling that to her sister. So they can't really blame her for trying to um, make something bad to someone in the company because she was talking to her sister, and the other the corte just happened to hear her. So she shouldn't be too much blame if they don't find any evidence, because her intention wasn't to let anyone in the company know.
Yeah.
However, she can get in trouble because there's no evidence, and if the other guy is really good at hiding evidence and then acts like good boy that hasn't done anything wrong, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you look at the big picture, depending on what kind of company it is, what kind of news report possibly can get out. I mean, it could look bad for the company. It could, I mean, it just could be bad all around if, you know, if you're looking at it at that. I think people could lose their jobs. There's just a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention the confrontation that would be in the office too. It would just be hard to work in that kind of environment, because it's like, oh, well, you tried to turn me in, but now it like didn't work, so now I'm still here and you're still here, and it would just be, I don't know, it would just be hard to deal with that and work at the same time.
Do you think it also make other people in the office uncomfortable with her if it's been reported that they, you know, maybe wouldn't believe her, and that, you know, makes you feel like, well, you know, nobody believes me, I'm not worthwhile, you know, I'm not a daughter of God. We'll put religion in there too, because doesn't that take down your self-esteem if other people don't believe you?
Yes.
Definitely. It would be so hard. So I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but there's actually an ending to the story, because this is like an actual real case. So I'll tell you guys what actually happened. Okay, so when Jack called the corporate counsel, he forgot about his caller ID, and so the lawyer used the information and gave her to figure out the people he was talking about. And so she contacted Lone Star EEO, which launched a formal investigation. And the EEO tried hard to get Martinez to cooperate. The what's that guy's name? French. I think that's French denied all charges and claimed that Martinez had made up her story to protect herself from pending layoffs. DeCoste was asked for evidence, but he didn't have any. Julia Martinez's husband found out what was going on, beat Julia, and forced her to quit. French survived the investigation with only a bruised reputation. He blamed everything on DeCoste for calling corporate counsel. There was so much, and animosity between Descos and French that Descos left the company after 3 months. So it's asking, what was Lone Star's sexual harassment policy? If Lone Star had one, did Jack know anything about it? Yeah.
I would say it doesn't sound like he knew exactly what the policy was for the company. And that maybe, they were not trained as employees what is considered sexual harassment, how to officially report it, who to turn to, maybe, if you need counselors within the workplace. I know within our workplace we have, I want to say a psychologist, but a counselor that has come out as the managers do meetings for the teams to do what's available to them, because maybe there's some counseling that could have gone on that was private, that they could have worked with her and seen what was happening without it being blown out in investigation wise at first.
Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to have like some kind of like personal counseling for people that feel like they're in an uncomfortable situation. I think that's a really good idea. Do you think the other policies or procedures that could have been put into place before that would have helped Martinez and Descos with this situation?
Yeah. And the reason the cast called him is because he was clueless about what to do. If they have had any previous training or something, he could have talked it out with her or something, but without the need of calling. And think about a better plan, or at least have time to gain some evidence before reporting it.
I think so too. Because it must have been kind of weird calling, and then I don't know. At that point he was demanded some kind of evidence, and then since there wasn't, it just kind of went downhill from there, and then Martinez ended up quitting, and there was just so much contention between him and French, so it was just a really hard situation. So yeah, maybe setting up some cameras like right after that would have helped, or something. I don't know, something just to have evidence, like you were saying before, Miss Samantha, about recording their conversations and how it is uncomfortable.
Do you think maybe before calling the lawyer for the company to see what the policy was, that maybe he should have taken notes or watched a little more carefully of what was going on in the office, maybe with even other female employees around Mr. French, his colleague?
That could have been wise.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
I think
Good.
just
Go ahead.
with this case, I feel like this is normal to a lot of cases. There's not often evidence to try a case like this, or how do you come? I mean, because there has to be proof. It can't just be he said, she said, and I believe you over him kind of a thing. So yeah, that's when it great.
And even going back to the law on sexual harassment, it sounds like we really needed to have stuff set in place for it and everybody be aware of it, but knowing how to do it is something that doesn't really give I mean, it gives us the definition of sexual harassment and the liabilities of it, but it doesn't tell us how to, you know, present it to a work group, how to set those policies so everybody knows what they are.
Mhm.
Also, I know I'm no professional and they might be professionals, but the way to approach an investigation could be a little bit different. I mean, obviously, French or the accused people are going to deny what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So if they can be more discreet and not go so straightforward about it, I don't know. Everything has to change.
I think, I don't know, I was just having some like anxiety thinking about just this case, because it is, as you said, Renee, it's like in the gray area where you can't really just like, I don't know, there's not like these set policies that like, oh, if this happens and like, or like they brush up against this person and like that you have to report them. So it's like, it's more of like how the people are feeling, and it just would be so hard to define anything, because people could just deny whatever, and because there might not be any evidence. So yeah, I think it might be good, Samantha, to be more discreet and just observant, and then I don't know, just like set up some kind of evidence to send to that EEO. So do you think clear policies and procedures have helped to avoid any of the final consequences of this case?
No. No. There's not enough clear policy and procedure, not enough anything. There was not enough information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there is either. There wasn't really any clear policies, and obviously DeCoste didn't know what the policies were, and it got him and other people in trouble because he wasn't aware of it. So, yeah. Just like Lori said, it would be good if there was some kind of refresher every year about like what was expected and what's unacceptable and what's acceptable when it comes to that. So it would have been good if he was aware of it and what he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Besides that, does anyone have any other thoughts just about like the case? Because besides that, we're pretty much done. That was our wrap up right there.
Yeah, I'll ask a question with our lesson thing that's due. I was reading over it, and we had a thing on hiring, I think was what it is. Let me switch over to my tab for just a second. Yeah, well, and I don't know if the lack of promotion or any of those, are we doing just for the first few lessons that we had on our paper that's due as a group?
Yeah, I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's easier because we've already studied those topics to choose issues that we've already studied about.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see Brother Stanley's paper that he submitted for an example?
I think I
I saw it.
but I haven't seen it all.
Yeah, I didn't get to look into it yet though. I just like glanced over it.
So at the meeting last week, that was something he stressed. You know, just doing it similar to what he has and having the word count and working together.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask a little bit more about that paper. So this is
Hey,
just
Emily, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and turn this off live, and then we just continue to talk?
Oh, perfect. All right. All right. Well, I'll turn it off now.